Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sim Grid, and welcome to another round of the More Female Racers by Thrustmaster. We are here at the Temple of Speed, Monza, or as it is given its full name, Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. And what a wonderful and glorious place to be on this Monday night. My name is Chaz Draycott. Alongside me in the box, as ever, my wonderful Irish partner in crime, Connell Courtney. How are we doing, Connell? It feels like forever, actually, since we've been in the box, doesn't it?
Yeah, it actually has been a while. It was the Christmas break that we had from the last More Female Racers race at Zandvoort. And then, it has feeling like a good while. It was good to be back. We were back on a very tricky circuit, but for neutrals, maybe for the drivers, it might cause a little bit of chaos, but for us neutrals watching, it should provide some great entertainment.
Indeed, and to be honest, this is going to be a very interesting one because of the main thing that we all love and know about Monza, slipstreaming. There's going to be plenty of it tonight. It's called the Temple of Speed for a reason. So many high-speed sections of this circuit to endure, and I think it's going to be, well, we always talk about mind games, don't we, Connell, in any longer races that we get, especially in the likes of the Endurance Cup that yourself and David Christie were covering over the weekend. But round here, mind games is really the aim of the game, essentially, isn't it? Because you don't want to be that car that's leading come the last slipstreaming section, as you will.
Yeah, it's really a matter of when to pull the trigger, isn't it? I mean, you get into a train, you lead the train for quite a while, you know that the people behind you are keeping their kegs dry, they're holding the cards close to their chest. And what more can you do? You can't exactly roll off the throttle and just let everyone by. You get passed around here, you could be passed by 3 or 4 and you find yourself at the back of the group you were just leading a corner ago. So it's tricky, but it's a great test for these drivers and their racecraft.
And if you were to pick any car around here to go out in tonight, what would it be for you? I mean, aside from the Lexus that we all know and love, or you've been driving the Aston Martin more, actually, haven't you?
Yeah, I switched to the Aston Martin about a month ago. I've been using it pretty consistently whenever I've got time to jump onto the sim. But I think actually the Aston, in terms of its weakest track, or at least what I've found so far, is that the Aston has struggled quite a lot. Just lacks the punch that some of the other cars do. But look out for that. Once was the Hungarians Ferrari too. They've had some great races and been building on some confidence. And a Ferrari at home in Italy should do well.
Yeah, indeed. In front of the virtual Tifosi this evening. It's not a bad place to be if you're in a Ferrari. There's like some sort of home advantage, isn't there, really, in being in one of them. But it's bound to be an exciting night of racing. Really looking forward to this. You can see there the very fierce and sudden turn 1 there, of course, is the Della Roggia chicane. Effectively turns 3 and 4. And there is, I believe, Lesmo 2, which is such a difficult corner to get right. It's got this real dip down on the apex, this huge amount of camber, and then the curb just it's almost vertical because of the large camber you've got there. If you hit that curb too hard on the way in, then the car is going to get chucked back up, bouncing around, and we're going to see a lot of people running wide out there because it's so easy to push it too hard through there. And I think also these sausage curbs might get a bit of use tonight. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we might see a couple of people take flight. We were sort of expecting it at Zolder, especially in that first chicane. But when we think of the tracks in the SEC calendar, where you can exactly take flight, you do think of Zolder in that first chicane. But these sausage curbs are big enough. I mean, we seen, was it last year or the year before, that horrible crash for, was it a Formula 3 driver in practice hitting one of those sausage curbs at the last corner and being sent into the tyre wall, which is terrifying. So they're big and beefy around here.
They are indeed. And to be honest, in a Formula 3 car, I think they're bad enough, but even in GT3 machinery as well, they can still hurt your feelings if you smack into them hard enough. But we're going to have, it's going to be an interesting mix though tonight, I think, with each car and how it gets on. It's hard to know where to start because, I mean, recently especially, we've seen that the balance of performance has been really, really strong, haven't we? There's been not too much in it, to be fair, when we go to different circuits.
Yeah, I think when we started covering races here, I mean, especially the first season of Sprint Cup was probably the biggest example. It was Porsche all the way, wasn't it? And definitely, it was almost like a Porsche Cup at the front. Everyone was getting the best out of it, but yeah, definitely over the past couple of months, we don't really see many Porsche. I mean, it is a difficult car to drive, even when it was the most used car in the grid. But now that the other cars have been more competitive, you've seen a lot of differences. And I think it's now, instead of saying, yeah, these guys are quick in this car, I'm going to use it, it's what you can extract from the best of your favorite manufacturer in terms of how comfortable you are over the course of a race, and obviously how quick you are. So it's the way it should be, really.
It is indeed. And what we're going to do now, everybody, just in case you haven't had much of an introduction to Monza before, or you would like to see how it goes, we're going to ride on board for a quick hot lap then, with narration, of course, to show you how it's done.
Hi, I'm Maren Edwards. My teammate Vicky Thompson is behind the wheel, and I'm going to try to keep up while we take you on a tour of the Temple of Speed, aka Monza. To start with, get the car positioned on the left-hand side of the track. Now, if this is lap 1, you might find your brake point is a couple hundred meters earlier because carnage. Otherwise, at the 150 meter board, brake hard into first, scrub off a lot of speed, and take a nice tight entry into the first half of the chicane so that you have a really nice exit out and you can start to build that speed back up as you head towards the Curva Grande. Here, hug that inside curb as if your life depended on it. You might find the car wants to drift a little wide on exit, and that's totally fine. Just make sure you get it back on the right-hand side before Della Raja. At the 100 meter board, brake hard into second, again really scrubbing up the speed to get a nice tight entry in the first half of the chicane, and a nice exit out as you head towards Lesmo 1. At about 50 meters, you're going to brake, grab a little inside curb. Car's going to want to drift wide, just make sure it doesn't go too wide. For Lesmo 2, brake at the 50 meter board, just nibble that inside curb, and then really exploit the track limits on exit as you head down the straight. And just let the car do what it needs to do. Don't unsettle it. And get ready for everyone's favorite curb combination, Ascari. Just underneath this next bridge, you'll see a lonely marshal on the right-hand side. Brake when you see him, maybe give him a wave. Now, depending on the car you're in, you may be able to take more or less of these curbs. Just make sure you know the limits of your own vehicle. Again, really taking advantage of the track limits on exit. And take a breath. Maybe check your pit strategies if you need to, and prepare yourself for Parabolica. Just past the 100 meter board, brake hard into third. Key here is to get a nice tight entry into the corner so that you can swing wide and really carry that speed through on exit. Car's going to want to naturally drift to the right-hand side of the track as you cross the start-finish line. And there you have it, a lap of Monza. Enjoy the race.
Fantastic stuff there. Vicky Thompson behind the wheel with Maren Edwards. Some wonderful narration over that lap there. And to be honest, it looks like a simple enough lap. Well, especially the way Maren describes it as well, doesn't it, Connell? But when you're in a race scenario, you've got to adapt so much around here. It's going to be a real challenge because getting time and taking tenths out of your fastest laps is all well and good, but when you've got to, like I said before, implement those mind games a bit into when you go for a move, when you just hang back a little bit, it's going to be a real tough one, isn't it? Especially over an hour. Yeah,
I'd say it's an easy track to learn, but over the course of a race, it can be very difficult. One of actually the trickiest ones, and it might be surprising because there's a lot of tracks on paper that seem a lot more technical, and while they are, visually, Monza, there's a lot of corners leading on the big long straights, and if you're not consistent enough, if you're losing a little bit of time coming out of that corner that's leading onto a straight, I mean, you're on that straight forever, and you lose that momentum. That just feels like for ages you're just losing time in that delta, and you can see it yourself, especially in this game when you have the delta in the top left of your screen. It can go from green to red very quickly.
It certainly can. And well, we saw the curbs as well. The curbs are one of the main things here because these cars, obviously, like most race cars, getting very unsettled by curbs, but when you especially hit slow speed around here in these chicanes, if it just bounces the car that little bit when you're trying to get out of, especially the first chicane and the second chicane, it just doesn't let you get the power down. You're not going to get the run to the next part of the circuit, and I think that's going to be the main thing here. A lot of the time when you're trying to make a move and go down the inside, for example, you don't want to do it in a place where you compromise both of you, because if there's another car behind that's then trying to get ahead, you're just going to slow each other down. And of course, you're not going to get the run off the corner. You need to make sure that if you are going to get it done, you give yourself the best chance of getting the run out of there, because it's a circuit that's all about momentum. You can see just how long the straight is, the legendary main straight here at Monza. It's nowhere near how short the straight is at Zolder, let's face it. Literally, you blink and you're at the other end of it. But that's going to be one of the more important corners there, the Della Roggia chicane that we just saw. The second and third corners, effectively, on the circuit, if you count the chicane as one. There's going to be so many people trying to late break into there. I don't think there's going to be too many moves into the first chicane, but because you've got Curva Grande just before it, you can sort of choose which line you're going to go for. If there's a car in front, they're going to make their intentions clear, hopefully, as to where they're going to defend or whether they're just going to maintain their normal line. Is there any sort of ideal opportunities you see here, Connell, that you would prefer in terms of an overtaking place?
Yeah, I think the run down the front straight into T1, if you set that up from the last corner, you can have that done relatively easy, especially if you get alongside, because front straight, as we can see, it's wide enough, and there is, if you're being squeezed, there is a bit of runoff on the right hand side before the pit wall, that you can make yourself around one or two cars. If they're fighting for position, you can go 3 or 4 wide there. So if you can set it up from the corner before in the last corner, then definitely I would say run down into turn 1 is probably the best overtaking hotspot. But as you say, you get the run through T3 into 4 and 5. Again, it's quite similar to the way you'd set up a pass into T1, and I think those are going to be the two biggest overtaking hotspots tonight.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of hard braking as well into a lot of these. So the cars now making their way out. Some wonderful sights and sounds here at Monza. Over 20 cars on the grid as well. And good variation all the same. Jack Noller out there in the Bentley at the moment. Mia Rose in the number 956 Mercedes also, as well as Benchik as well. 977 Ferrari just on screen in the top left at the moment. Great to see as well as we ride on board with the Lexus there of Sarah Moore in the bottom right of shot. And here we go, the main shot now, more freaky racing. Great noise from that Lexus, big chunky V8 in that thing. But you can see what I mean there, just trying to get the run out of that chicane. It's so easy to overdo the first part of it and miss the apex of the second bit. From previous experience, I've not actually driven Monza in this sim yet, which sort of baffles me, and I'm a bit upset with myself about it. But in previous experience there in other sims, it's usually best to attack the first curb first and then focus on the run out. Do you think that would be the right way to do it here?
Yeah, I think that is generally the approach, but again, it can differ based on manufacturer as well. And especially the run through here can be quite difficult with the sausage curbs. You can clip a wee bit on the inside and find yourself doing a Vettel/Stroll incident. We've seen a few of them actually in a few races I've watched in SEC, and even being a part of some of the public lobbies, people rejoin like Seb and Stroll were. So yeah, it's going to be very, very important to actually dodge some incidents, because there will be incidents, and also reading the guys ahead of you. You know, if you have two people battling into, say, this corner, you know, hanging back, not being right up their rear end, and then you getting bulked by them making a block pass, you know, cutting in deep, getting a run and getting a drive out here, so you can maybe do the both of them or one of them. So yeah, racecraft is going to be key tonight.
Certainly is. Really excited to see how we get on. This is the number 89 Bentley with Melissa Taplin and Ross McGregor driving that one, the NSN MFR Bentley Continental GT3 2018 Bentley. I can't believe that car's been around for 3 years now. Well, 4 years, obviously, with it being made in 2018. Certainly doesn't look bad for being a 4-year-old car. It still looks like it's a brand new development, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, the Bentley is probably the one I think you'd say that if you were going to say what's the odd one out in terms of what isn't a GT3 car, just visually, you would say the Bentley, wouldn't you? I mean, look at the size of that thing, even compared to the Lexus, which isn't exactly small, but it does well. I mean, it's performed in real life. It goes well here. I mean, a lot of drivers, a lot of talented drivers, more talented than us, can get the best out of the Bentley and compete for podiums and top 5 finishes. So definitely it's quite a consistent car too. With the weight of it too, it's not massively difficult on the tires as some of the other manufacturers are. Lexus. But other than that, yeah, I think it's a great car, and actually probably my third pick in this game because it's very stable and you can get some good times out of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's one of those cars you can just always rely on, really. Much like the Mercedes that we can see here. Mia Rose doing a 147.151, the number 956 machine, the Jean Alesi Esports Academy car. Doing a smashing job so far with Benchik just behind. You can see there are only 4/10 between the top two, with Benchik in the AAA Esports. They were previously called the Hungarians, but they've had a team name change for the times ahead. But you can see just being in that slipstream in qualifying is all important, isn't it? You just want to make sure that no matter what you've got going on in this race, that you just keep your head and try and just make the most of it. You've got to make the most of those slipstream moments, haven't you?
Yeah, there's slipstream obviously so important around here, and as soon as you get that toe broken to the car in front, you do find yourself struggling to just make that time back up, especially if they're in a pack. If you're in a group and then you lose a little bit of touch to the group ahead, even if they're making mistakes or having a bit of a battle, their deficits that they're losing to sort of just get neutralized by the slipstream run that they get from each other down here. And even if you manage to get, say, you break into the lead and you've got some clear in front of you and a bit of a gap behind, if the cars behind are in a bit of a group, if they work smart enough, they can actually work together to try and make their way back up to you with a bit of slipstream in action. It's almost like cycling in a peloton group, as we see Tia Misante here, and she's always very laser focused, isn't she? We've seen her at Zandvoort sweating buckets. Actually, she was in a tough battle with Yvonne Vandenberg, but she'll be open to go a couple of positions better. She's had some good results though and shown a lot of potential, and certainly around here, I mean, we can see a 6-car battle for the lead, and if it is, I would expect Tia to be in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of very high caliber drivers in this series, and to be honest, every time we go into a qualifying session or even into just a practice session, we're never quite sure who to expect or, who we think may come out on top, because there is just such a good mix. And of course, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses as well at different circuits. And I think that's one of the main things that we need to factor in here, that this can sometimes be one of those circuits that sort of levels the playing field a little bit, you could say. You do often get drivers where they're not so good in the windy circuits, if you know what I'm saying. But around here, I'm not saying it's just because there's more straights, but it just tests the drivers in a different way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, slipstream, and if you make a little mistake, you can almost get away with it if you're still tucked into the slipstream. But yeah, the way the test, consistency will be key around here. I mean, it's probably one of the hardest tracks to make up time again, especially, as I was just saying, if you break the toe. But you can find yourself stuck in a bit of a rut too if you're not feeling comfortable with the car around here. It's not doing exactly what you want, especially if you're trying to compensate for some deficiencies. You find yourself turning in a little bit tighter earlier and trying to get the run out, and then you find yourself whacking off one of those massive sausage curves and losing yourself even more time. So it is quite a challenging track mentally for these drivers, which is obviously a great learning curve, but doesn't really seem to be holding up Mia Rose too much. First woman into the 46s, which is very, very fast.
It is indeed. We had Michael Hamlet, as ever, in chat earlier. He was saying just how quick some of these drivers were. It's pretty scary pace from some of them. So we're going to have a very entertaining evening on that front. But at the moment, it is Mia Rose 0.6 of a second to the good from Tamir Benchik. And then, of course, we have Dove in third place in the Lamborghini. Vandenberg goes up to 5th, also in a Lamborghini. This is obviously the Hec 1 Flexus that we're looking at. I did see a comment actually about you should have put somebody in the Flexus and they would have done better. I can't remember who it was that said it, but I believe it was on the Endurance Cup broadcast potentially. Actually, no, I think it was in the Japanese night. ignore me. We've we've got at the moment Melissa Taplin just in 10th position, 3 seconds off the pace. But that's what I mean. It's all about getting a good run out of here. Just a good run out of one of these chicanes can give you so much time and gain you so much momentum. Just behind, in 11th place, we have Charlie Martin. Now, for anybody that has been paying attention to the SimGrid Discord, would have seen that this Friday at 7 PM UK time, I will be interviewing Charlie Martin. We'll be talking about all things sim racing, about how females can progress in motorsport and how she feels the best way to go about it would be. Plenty to talk about, I'm sure. Really looking forward to that. So make sure you tune in at 7 PM on Friday night. Get yourself a drink, get all cozy, and we'll have a good chat, shall we? But Charlie, currently 12th place now. Had a bit of a rough opening few laps at Zandvoort, didn't she? But managed to recover nice and cleanly, to be honest.
Yeah, find herself into the wall, I think it was early on. I mean, to be fair, there was a few incidents in those early stages of Zandvoort, which, to be fair, is not uncommon. I mean, it's a tough track, it's narrow, you're trying to make a pass, and there's not a lot of room for it in certain parts of the track. But, I mean, fortune favours the brave sometimes, and of course, you can make up ground, as a few of the drivers shown. But yeah, certainly wasn't the best for Charlie, but 7th place, you know, it wasn't I mean, for all the incidents that Charlie was involved in, a bit of damage that was picked up, to have a recovery drive up to 7th, not a million miles off actually the top 3 spot in the championship. So it's all still to play for. I mean, when you go from 1st in the championship to 8th in the championship, or 9th in the championship as well, 1st to last in the pro class is separated by 50 points. You know, so one bad result or some hardware issues or DNF could be very costly to certain teams.
Yeah, it really could. It's very easy to chuck it down the pan in a championship like this, especially with so few rounds as well. You know, you've got less chances to get it right, and, well, relative terms, it's worse if you get it wrong because it's more of an impact on your championship. Michael Hamlet's made us aware that between P9 and P15 we've only got half a second at the moment as we look at the GTWR female team Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. Glorious sounding machine, 5.2 litre V10, 10 cylinders. Always the way if you ask me. I do like a V12, but there's just something about the sort of, it's a bit more of an unnatural sound, the V10. It's got like a double tone about it. Sounds phenomenal. There she goes, flying down the straight. And currently 5th place, 1.6 seconds off the pace. You can see obviously Mercedes, Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, all inside the top 4. There's a little bit of mayhem there into turn 1. A little bit of a miscommunication, I believe. This is Verena May.
That'll be a teleport back to pits. As we see, there is one of, you pointed out, Chaz, that corner can be very critical to a lap around here. And yeah, just trying to get on the power, just a little bit too early. Spinning up the rear and find yourself pointing towards the tire wall.
Yeah, it's easy to just have too much commitment in there, if anything. You know, we've all been there where we've tried to push the car too hard. We've just got to be very careful with these rear engine cars because there's so much weight over the rear end, isn't there, that it can just easily and just very gradually rotate on you, and it's, if anything, a pain in the backside, to be honest. But there are benefits and obviously deficits to having rear engine cars. That's why the balance of performance works so well between these rear engine and front engine bits of kit. As here we see Charlie Martin stream now on board with the Boatley, the big old Boatley. Not really sure of the steering wheel of that car. Now, I know being excited by the shape of certain steering wheels is probably a very nerdy thing, but it's one steering wheel that I've just never been too keen on. Do you like it?
I'm actually in agreement with you, Chaz. Yeah, no, I'm not the biggest fan. Yeah, I love a GT style wheel myself, but I don't know. It seems like it's sort of a bit in between to a full sort of circular wheel and a GT wheel. Yeah, it's a strange one, but
Yes. Good save there by Charlie. The car just gets slightly sideways. As through Curva Grande goes Jenny Camuglia in the Nissan GTR. Love that car. It looks really good in that livery, doesn't it? Definitely suits it. And there is Alu Gobi, just P3 in the McLaren now. The Map 1 racing machine certainly does look good, doesn't it? Nice and plain and simple livery on that McLaren always suits it, because it's got so many natural, beautiful curves about it. It's such a pretty car. Really had to grow on me, though, because those rear arches are a bit strange. But, yeah, the slightly, I was going to say featureless front end, but there's just not many jagged bits. There's a very short front end on the car, isn't it, really? But still, McLaren have done a wonderful, wonderful job with that thing, I think.
yeah, I think itself and the Ferrari, it's probably the best cars to have a sort of minimalistic design on. I mean, I love. Of course, you have to have red on a Ferrari, but yeah, no, I'd rather the Mercedes, or excuse me, the McLaren and the Ferrari have sort of minimalistic designs, and then we have stuff like the Lexus here, which is yeah, well designed and would be very costly if you're trying to get a Raptor spread, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There'd be a few too many angles to go at, I think. Maybe a bit of a pain in the backside to cover up. But still, it certainly looks good in most liveries that it goes out in. But qualifying is just coming to an end then. This is Sarah Fair, the number 18 Red Velvet Racing Ferrari. Currently 6/10 up on her fastest time. Flying down towards the Parabolica. Lost a couple of tenths there out of the Ascari chicane. Round the Parabolica again. Such another difficult corner to get right, as we see there. Out wide on the exit. You've just got to try and get on the power as early as you can, but not push the car out too far. And this is Melissa Taplin, who is currently 2 tenths up as well. Last driver to cross the line in the session, she will be. So we'll see how she gets on. It could be a top 10 time, Michael has just informed me. So we shall see round the Parabolica. Bentley roaring all the way around, nearly going over the edge there. See what happens, whether it does. And I think, yeah, time got lost there, and unfortunately not improving. But we just saw it again there, Connell, pretty much confirming everything we'd said the whole time, that is a very, very difficult lap to get right time after time, and to find those extra tenths in.
Yeah, we just seen it there. One bad run out of the final corner, and you just lose all your time. I mean, it's a little different to a track, say, like Imola, where one corner leads into the next. And although it's not as flowing as Imola, it still follows the same concept. Whereas if you get a bad run, it does kill that delta, and we've seen it there. I was sort of a prime example there. Michael was in our ear talking about the time that she was up on her delta, and then it just went away through, I mean, a little mistake. You get a little bit run wide, you're not on the throttle just as early as the previous lap, and you find yourself losing heaps of time around here just because of the length of the straights.
Yeah, it can very easily go wrong. But at the same time, it's easy to just find maybe just a little tenth here or there by doing something that you might not have considered before. But around this circuit, a lot of the time, it does come down to the slipstream, unfortunately, which, if anything, adds to the racing. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love Monza, but you can see there just how close it was. But off the start, obviously a rolling start, so no worries about any sort of standing starts or getting it off the line, which I'm sure is nice and, well,
I can
wouldn't
tell
say-
you. I can tell you that is great for me because no matter what type of racing I do, whether it be real life, sim racing, what have you, I cannot get a good start from a stand start. I used to qualify in pole and end up eighth in the first corner. So yeah, rolling starts are thumbs up for me.
I was going to say I've got no skill when it comes to rolling starts. If there's one thing that I'm terrible at, it's that. In all honesty, there's just I've got no judgment for it, no judgment whatsoever for rolling starts. But still, it's part of the challenge, and it's even more reason why these ladies do such a fantastic job in this series. And we'll be going onto the grid in just a moment to get cracking. There again is Charlie Martin, just getting ready for an hour-long race here. Don't forget, these drivers have co-drivers as well that will be taking over around the half-hour mark. We have a pit window midway through. There you can see Charlie just adjusting the setup there as we give away all her secrets. But it really is a nerve-wracking time, isn't it, getting ready for a race at this point, Connell? Because no matter what, you never know what to expect, do you? I mean, everybody always says in motorsport, expect the unexpected. Well, it's easier said than done, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean it's a strange feeling, and I don't know if it's the same for everyone. But what I found was sitting on the grid. Obviously, what we would do, we'd sit on like a dummy grid in pit lane, then go out, do your cycling lap, and then end up on the grid and obviously start the race. And I found, actually, of course, I was very, very nervous and had to go to the toilet and everything, and the million thoughts were rushing through the head. But as soon as I clicked, the bike for me, into gear and left for the cycling lap, that was the sort of the nerves had all sort of washed away because you were focusing on the job at hand. Don't really get this opportunity here, so you're just sat in the grid sort of stewing in your own paranoid thoughts when you're sitting on the grid like this. So yeah, it can be very, very difficult, but once those lights go green, it washes away.
Yeah, it's easy to get rid of the nerves sometimes, but it depends on what situation you're in each race. You know, just like I do, that every single race brings with it a different scenario, maybe different implications, especially if it's regarding a championship fight. There's so many things to think about each and every time, and turn one here is a scary one as well. These drivers really have to be careful as they go down into that first chicane. There's going to be a big compression that we all need to watch out for, so keep an eye out, everybody, because it's going to be a lively one, that's for sure. We have our wonderful grid walk from Mike Yao of Simply Race again. Thank you very much, mate. Looking very pretty indeed, isn't it, that grid? And it is nice to have that variation because, like we were saying before, there's been so many different series that we've had where you just get one car that can just run away again and again. I don't really particularly think we've seen that here, have we?
No, we haven't seen that. I mean, of course, we've seen, the team rows in Ora and be the class act of the field so far, but they've been pushed all the way. You know, of course, we had that epic battle at Misano with the GTWR guys in the Lamborghini, and then we had Benzik and formerly known as the Hungarians. They were pushing them all the way at Zandvoort. So yeah, definitely we have seen a good mix, but the Rose crew have really they've been the constant, but I think that is more down to their capabilities as drivers more so than the manufacturers that they're in.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen some very, very capable drivers indeed. We might have a potential server restart here just because there's a couple of issues, so please do bear with us, everybody, and we'll have things sorted as soon as possible, of course, as ever. But again, it's just adding to the nerves, really, isn't it? Here with with what these drivers have to put up with.
Yeah, at least it wasn't, mid-race and then a red flag was hit, because I can tell you from experience, the adrenaline dump you feel whenever an incident happens, and you've obviously been flowing with adrenaline for however long the race has happened. You get back to the paddock, you're sitting in the van or wherever if you're rich enough for the blooming motorhome, which I'm very jealous of, and you sit there and you just feel the adrenaline sort of wash away from you, and you have this big adrenaline dump, and all you want to do is have a nap. But no, you have to go and fire yourself up once again, warm up, do your stretches, do whatever, depending on how long the delay is, and get back out and do it all over again. So yeah, it can be tough, but lucky for these drivers, they haven't got their adrenaline pumping just yet.
Yeah, indeed. I think, well, I know that I'd probably be losing my head, but that's why they're out in the cars, and I'm not. Let's face it. There's a reason that I'm a commentator and not a driver, and that's simply because I am terrible.
Now, hold on, did you not pick up a wee P1 there?
Oh, I was part of me was kind of hoping that you wouldn't mention that. But yes, it only in an MX-5 though, and I mean it's got nothing on what these ladies are going to be putting up with in these GT3 cars. Sorry?
A win is a win. You can't.
Yeah, that's true.
What it's in.
That's very true indeed.
Stick it on the CV.
Yeah.
Order yourself a trophy off Amazon and stick that in the mantelpiece.
Oh, if only. Now we've got a car. Looks like it's gone around there. We've got a Mercedes in the gravel. That's one of the Lexus there. It's got the 87 of Sarah Moore. That's gone off there. I think it might be, It just looks like she's lit it up out of turn one. And the car has gone around, unfortunately, on the exit. Easy to do, though. We've seen it all before, haven't we? With just when you're lighting up the rears at slow speed in these cars, they can very, very quickly spin around when the traction breaks away. We're looking here at Marion Edwards and the 587 Mercedes of Team Edison Genius Racing Bulbs.
It's easy done, isn't it? I mean, I actually, funny enough, I was competing in the Silverstone British Classics event, and lucky enough it wasn't caught on the broadcast, or I don't think it was caught on the broadcast, but I was leaving pit lane with 2 or 3 minutes to go, rushing out, to get 2 laps in instead of 1, and managed to spin in pit lane. So I thought Mikey I was gonna find it somehow and just replay it over and over again, but lucky I got away with that. I can only talk about it now because it's been a long time. We can't get that replay back, so hopefully.
He's just saying in the background he's got it. So you've had it, son. If you annoy him, that's it now. That's going to get resurfaced.
I'm going to be blackmailed now.
It will get resurfaced very, very quickly. But we've got, of course, a warm-up lap underway here then. And the drivers will be on their way round just to get ready to go, essentially. There's no other way of putting it. Bit of a long pace lap around here as well. I mean, it's painfully slow when you're having a pace lap around here because it's such a fast circuit normally. When you have all that time to think about what you're going to be doing and how quickly you're going to be getting there, it sort of gets annoying when you're on a lap around here because you just want to go fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I find it difficult to do the full lap, cycling laps for that exact reason. You just want to get going, but it's also a bit crucial. I mean, you're sitting there, you've lost a little bit of concentration, and you find yourself having cold brakes into T1 and cold tires. Yeah, you could find yourself being the cause of an incident, having a long walk up to race direction, so to say.
Indeed. Right then. Round 3 of the Male-Female Racers series by Thrustmaster is about to get underway here at Monza on the sim grid. We've got Mia Rose in the number 956 Mercedes leading the way. Crawling up to the line now, and any second the green flag will drop and the race will be underway It's important to get a good start here. We've got a drive through for Rangsata further back, but we're underway at Monza. Flying down the straight, wonderful sound of all these cars screaming their way down towards the first corner. A little bit of filtering in and out in the background there. You can see the two GTWR Lamborghinis just in the middle with another friendly Lamborghini, but look at this by Gobi, down the inside, but again that overlap on the chicane just doesn't quite work. Benchik manages to stay ahead. Now this is good for Rose, because if these two continue battling even just throughout lap 1, then she's just going to be able to bolt away at this point, isn't she, Connell?
Yeah, Rose is the pace woman, so really they got to work together here, and there's a lot of defensive driving which is just going to cost them time. GTWR car in the grass, almost clipping the back of that Ferrari. Alou Gobi still trying to go around the outside, and this is just costing time. Look, already in the space of 4 corners, Mia Rose has a 1.1 second lead, and that is just absolutely perfect. Mia will be seeing that in the rear view mirror, seeing them getting feisty with each other, and it'll just be like all their Christmas is coming at once.
Alou Gobi did a fantastic job there, defending from the Lamborghini, and then turned it into an offensive manoeuvre on the Ferrari. It was awesome stuff. A little bit of contact there between Witcher and Charlie Martin in the bottom right of your screen as well. The Bentleys all sort of in the midfield at the moment, just trying to climb their way up. But of course we've got the 3 Lamborghinis in a row there, the 177, the 150 and the 14. All 3 of them GTWR female racers Lamborghinis. So they're locking out the midfield, and Godzilla just behind, of course, with Camugli at the wheel in the number 95. There is the squadron of Bentleys, almost side by side. Indicating to the right as well is, I believe, was that Jack Noller in the number 24. Oh, and off the circuit goes Witcher in it was the Hec 1 Flexus, the number 66 machine. Not sure whether there was any help there. Apparently Melissa has given her a tap lin to send her off. As Alou Gobi has had a go on the grass, you could say. That's, easy to do.
We could see Gobi being quite aggressive from the start, and maybe that's just better. I mean, this track does catch out like that. Now Vandenberg is going to capitalise. Sarah Dove has been promoted up into 3rd position. Now Sarah Dove's teammate Tobias Pfeffer will be looking to get one back, as we see that Nissan getting very close, maybe a little bit of a tap there, and has sent the 2 of them off the edge of the track. And that is definitely exceeding track limits. But Alou Gobi, just unfortunate, but crucially for her, in the sake of the championship, she is still leading the silver class way, and that is the Nissan behind her, who's 2nd in silver class. And of course the championships are split by pro and silver, so for Gobi she is still leading the way in the silver class.
It's all important to make sure you continue grabbing those points round after round, trying to get past Vandenberg now in that very aggressive looking Lamborghini. And Witcher has had another issue and another off, apparently, number 66 in the Hec 1 Flexus, unfortunately. But look at this now, this chase. That McLaren looking very feisty indeed. Lambo looking feisty as ever, but Yvonne's having to defend hard at this point. Around the Parabolica once again, onto the main straight. Now watch the slipstream, although, to be fair, Gobi not staying in the slipstream, maybe looking after the temperatures early on. But I think at this point, you need to just get in that slipstream and go for it. Worry about temperatures later. While the field is a little bit more compressed, you want to be just trying to go for those moves hard onto the brakes into the first chicane. It feels so slow when you're going through there. And here is a replay of what happened into the Parabolica. McLaren, you can see, just has a bit of a moment there, really pushing hard, and just runs slightly wide, loses out to one of the Lambos. But that's what I was saying before, wasn't it, Connors? Again, Alou Gobi goes straight on, over the curb and back on the circuit. It's so easy to push it hard into the Parabolica and into any other of the braking zones here, because you've got so much speed behind you. Just an extra metre later on the brakes, and you could be going for a bit of a ride out into the gravel.
Yeah, and you start to get a little bit greedy with it. You see Vandenberg in the gravel there, and Gobi looks as though she's going to get a move done. Vandenberg making a bit of a mistake, not run too far out wide. Now here is the incident with the Heck 1 Flexus, and this is tapping in the penalty, and that is just, yeah, pretty bog standard incident there. And unfortunately, the Flexus was the unfortunate recipient of a little bit of a tap. But yeah, it looks as though Gobi has got Vandenberg there. It looks as though Vandenberg just dipped a wheel or two into the gravel, and that just killed the drive, killed the corner speed that she was carrying. And then Gobi was able to make a relatively easy pass.
Yeah, it was more of a, if anything, more of a smackling than a taplin, to be honest. That was awful. I'm sorry. You can ask Michael Hamlet for a refund. But looking back now, then, from Sarah Moore in the Lexus, we get that wonderful soundtrack. Beautiful rear wing on the Lexus as well. I'm a real stickler for a well-designed rear wing. I love the little rise in the middle. But that Bentley, it may not be the most aggressive looking of cars, but it's a big old thing, and it's filling our vision right now. Charlie Martin, absolutely on it. And there is Charlie now, just following on, nearly making contact there. You could see trying to push the Lexus of Sarah Moore around Curva Grande into the chicane, braking early, playing it safe. Oh, she's gone deep, and there's contact between the two. Oh, way too deep into there, just late on the brakes, unfortunately. Couldn't avoid the Lexus. Bentley's either side. I'm surprised you can fit them 3 wide round Monza. She won't be happy with that, though, as she recovers now, but that's a real shame, that. But again, it's just when you're trying to make a move, we've seen it, haven't we? Just how quickly it can go down the pan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a pretty textbook incident there. Just getting sucked along in the slipstream, and then find yourself, you've missed your braking just that little bit. Slipstream doesn't help, and then you find yourself with nowhere to go. You already stand on the brakes as hard as you can, and then sometimes as soon as you lock the wheels, it is game over in terms of avoiding the incident.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame really to see the contact, but still, Alou Gobi on a mission here, and despite having a few little offs here and there, some proper pace in that McLaren, a Mach 1 racing machine, flying down the straight now after the Lamborghini. Doesn't look close enough to do anything this time round, but I believe, without any mistakes, touch wood, it's not going to be too long before we see this McLaren making a move. Connell, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think with the rate that Alou made caught up on Tia, I think it's going to be a matter of when, not if. I mean, that is a general sign. We've talked about it a little bit in the Endurance Cup at Zolder there at the weekend. When you see a driver make a mistake, that is when you see when their true pace is really shown, because when you're behind a car, you could be sitting in behind, just holding your cards close to your chest, just sitting comfortable there, or you could be on your limits, and we don't really know until you make a mistake, and then we see sort of the rate that you catch up then on the car if you do it very quickly. As we see a little bit of contact there, and that is a spin round, and unfortunately for Tia, that is a trip into the sand trap, and that is very, very unfortunate, because Tia was having her best drive so far of this series, of season 2, fighting for a top 4, and that is very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is that. You don't want to be seeing any of that, to be honest. As she recovers now, back on, she won't be too pleased with that one, but you've got to get your head in the game now and crack on. And this is where we see some fantastic recovery drives. We've seen them before, haven't we? Drivers just coming back through from further down the field than they'd like to be. And you get some incredible stories that come through from races like this. And this is just the start of what could be one of those stories. Fingers crossed. Oh, apparently she's had a big one. Michael Hamlet's just saying now. So that was clearly the commentator's curse from me. Brilliant. Well done, Chaz. As you can see, the yellow dot on the map in the bottom, well, the right-hand side of the screen. There's a car going very slowly indeed. That is, of course, the number 150 machine getting going again. We're looking right now at Jenny Camugli in the Biscuit Motorsport MFR Nissan GTR. 6th place at the moment, not too far behind Yvonne van den Berg in the number 14 Lamborghini. And they're spacing out a little bit at the moment at this stage, Connell, but not too much, to be honest. So, we've still got battles on our hands, haven't we?
Yeah, we have that, and we also have the dynamic of the second driver coming in, and we see, I think, the two most notable people is Vicky Thompson and Gregor Schill, who have made in 2 races in a row at Misano and at Zandvoort. We've seen them made tremendous strides through the field. Going to be a little bit more difficult around here, I think, but we'll see the incident here. I mean, looking at it the first time, it looked pretty clear cut in terms of who was responsible. Just missed the braking entirely. Wasn't trying to do anything out of order, but just missed the braking point and then hit the rear. And Tia, I think, judging by what Michael was saying, had another incident after that. So that's an absolute disaster. Again, as we were saying, best result of best running of the season up until that point in 4th place, and now she's in pits.
Real shame, that is. Real shame indeed. Fingers crossed they managed to get back out and crack on, but it's not easy to come back from having an incident like that. As we now look at Andy the Lab for Strix Racing in a bit of a battle here with Robertson and Fair. Just trying to get past Fair now in the Ferrari, looking down the inside into the Parabolica, tries to go later on the brakes. Fair carries the speed all the way around the outside, but Andy Lab keeps it down the inside now. Manages to get a bit of an overlap, but the thing is, you've taken a tighter line there. Oh, nearly making contact as they get close to the camera as well. Just wondering now who's going to be later on the brakes. Sarah manages to be later on the brakes there. Nicely done. Now look at that menacing Lexus just behind there. Robertson trying to just identify an opportunity. And when you're following on like this, at this sort of point of a race, Connell, you just have to be a little bit patient, don't you? And just be like, right, I'll see what you lot are going to do, and I'll see if I can take advantage. You've got to just see where you're quicker than the opponents that you're getting.
Yeah, you got to take get a check of the perspective. I mean, you look behind you, you've got a 9-second gap behind you to rank setter, and then you look up front ahead of this group and there's a 7-second gap. So it's very unlikely, at least in your stint, that you're going to either make that ground up or lose that time to the car behind. So oh hello, and we're seeing the Lexus in the wall as right. What are we doing, Charles? Man, every time we talk about a car, it gets sent into the shadow realm, whether by themselves, their own doing, or with someone else giving them a little bit of assistance. But back to the point, we'll now have to speak hypothetically. But yeah, when you've got a gap that large to the group ahead and the car behind, you know that this group is the group you'll be isolated in. So you can be patient. You can hope that they get a little bit aggressive with each other, make a mistake, drag each other wide, and then you can capitalize on that. And then once you have clean air, try and release yourself from that group.
Yeah, you just need to plan it out, don't you? That's the thing. You need to just try and see what you can plan and how you can go about your business, essentially, in these sorts of races. But you and I know it's never that easy. It's never that easy. But here is a replay then, just showing the 150 machine. This is what happened to Teo. We've got is that the Stargirl Racing Ferrari? Oh, just tries to go into the gap there as it's closing and hits the wall a number of times and backwards down the straight. That's a scary, scary place to be. Luckily, doesn't get collected by anybody, but that is now a very second-hand Lamborghini. She had time to back out of it and go around, but you know what racing drivers are like. You commit to a gap, you go for it, don't you? You never back out.
Yeah, that's a terrible couple of laps there. Now we've got the first of a time penalty. We've got Robertson with a 15-second time penalty. So that is obviously an incident that was a destroyer of a race. I mean, we see the 15-second penalties generally for the bigger of the incidents. 5-second, 10-second penalties going into some of the smaller instances that don't have a knock-on effect. And then we see if you're extra naughty, you find yourself having a drive-through penalty, or also built into the game, if you exceed track limits 4 times, you then find yourself getting a drive-through penalty as well. But yeah, so that is basically the penalty rundown. You can get yourself a stop-go 30-second penalty for those who are new to the game if you speed in pit lane, which is we have seen before, Chaz. We have seen people have to suffer the fate of a drive-through penalty and then straight away after speeding in pit lane. Now that's not going to work. Andy the Lava was a close one. Andy the Lava was possibly my favourite livery in the game just because it has a lab on the side of it, and that automatically gets brownie points with me.
Yeah, I agree. Who doesn't love Labrador, right? Well, at the moment, I think we've got still a decent window here before we get the... Oh, there's no such window there. Andy Lab very late on the brake, sends the Ferrari a very alternative route round the chicane. That was a big old hit. And Sarah in the red velvet racing machine, there was nothing velvet about that contact, was there? That was that'll wake her up if she wasn't already wide awake, because we know how focused in these races are. But as things stand, I was just about to say we've still got quite a bit of time before any sort of pit stops yet, so it could still all change, couldn't it?
Yeah, all still to play for. I mean, you throw it off into your other driver, and you know, especially if you've got another driver like Gregor Schill or someone to that effect. Of course, we have Giorgio Simonini to jump into the car as well. Guys like that can really turn things around if you're having a bit of a bad day at the office. And yeah, we're getting another penalty there, Taplin with a 15-second penalty, and no guesses or no prizes for guessing what incident that was. But Charlie Martin's making a bit of recovery. We've seen this time and time again, really, with Charlie Martin. She made recovery at Zandvoort, had a few incidents early on in the race, and has made a bit of recovery, and seems to be doing the same thing here, just on the back of Sarah Johnson now, Bentley on Bentley action. And that's what you want to see from your teammate, isn't it? Especially if you're about to jump into the car. You don't really mind if a mistake is made or you get involved in an incident, as long as they try and recover and try and give you the best possible opportunity to get a result out of it. You know, because we've all been there. Especially in team races, you don't want to show yourself up with your teammates, and you try and do the best job possible, and sometimes you can get a little bit overeager and get involved in an accident or two. But if you've got a good team around you, you should get sympathy as long as you're putting in 100% effort.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we've you and me have both seen it before, where drivers have maybe been, you could say, pushed a bit too hard. It's easy for us to obviously sit up here and say that, though. You know, it's part of the it's not part of the commentator's curse, but it's part of the curse of being a commentator, you could say, is that we sit up here and make it sound easy, but it's definitely not. But at the moment, what's definitely not going to be easy is Charlie Martin holding off Verena May, unless we see some very, very quick laps here, because Verena May in that Ferrari, despite the little off earlier, we know is very, very quick in the Style Girl racing machine. The gap is 1.5 seconds at the moment. Down towards the Parabolica, onto the brakes. You can see now, just trying to get on the power. Let the car wash out wide slightly, but just don't let it wash out too wide. It really is a corner of balance, isn't it, around there?
Yeah, you can be very, very greedy around there, especially on corner entry, and think that you're going to be okay, and then you try and hook the car back up and you find yourself going wide onto those nasty sausage curves, or just killing your drive altogether. We seen it earlier, actually, in one of the qualifying laps. I believe it was Taplin that was in the car and just got a little bit greedy on corner entry, dragged herself out a little bit too wide, killed her lap entirely. And it's just one of those things. You can have an absolutely perfect lap, think this is going to be your PB, and then one corner ruins it, and that is the frustration of Monza. But it's historic for a reason, and it's loved for a reason. Now here is an incident. That is a very, very broken Mercedes there from the looks of things. And that is one of the Aston Martins. Just going over...
Oh, no.
Lesson, is it? And that is two very broken cars now.
Yeah, just the tiniest of touches there makes all the difference in the end. And that's the thing with these GT3 cars. They're rear-wheel drive, so you can't just floor it like a front-wheel drive touring car and then get it saved. It can go downhill very, very quickly, unfortunately. And we've seen a prime example of that there. But now, I'm just looking down the order. Andy the Lab has not really got to worry about Sarah Fair at this point with the 15-second penalty. Charlie Robertson also having a... Charlotte Robertson, I should say, having a penalty as well. And Taplin in 7th place getting a 15-second penalty. So, it's tough, isn't it? But, you know, obviously that braking marker's had a bit of a rough day, bad luck, hasn't it? It's certainly not an easy one.
Yeah, there's been a couple demolished throughout the course of qualifying on this race. I've seen one of the rows, whoever was driving in qualifying, I believe it was Nora, coming out of the second corner, the first chicane, and there just being a destruction in front of her of debris with all the bars that have been smashed, obviously on the left side of the entrance to turn 1, somehow making its way onto the exit of turn 2. So someone got very creative with their lines going into the first chicane.
We've certainly seen that before, haven't we? We've had the odd issue here and there with stuff like that. But now, the Lamborghini of Sarah Dove, 2.2 seconds off Benchik last time round, and here is another replay. This is the 587 Mercedes. Marion Edwards just going past Sarah Fair. Running wide. Sarah gives a bit of encouragement, and unfortunately into the wall, where Lewis Hamilton ended up a few years back. I say a few, I think it was, 2009, 2010 he went in there? Someone will correct me in chat.
Years ago.
Yeah.
It's scary when we're talking about 2009, we're saying 11 years ago.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? Really is. But yes, that's not somewhere you want to be, but that's all it takes in these cars, you know, a little tap and it just unsettles them so much. With all the weight over the rear end as well. Yeah,
it's exactly what you're saying. Rear wheel drive is so hard to save. Once they're gone, they're pretty much gone, aren't they? It's very difficult to claw them back. We see some spectacular saves now. That's a great pass there. That is a block pass if you've ever seen one. Is Sarah Johnson on Taplin. That is on his Bentley action once again. Didn't need to do the pass necessarily on Taplin, but clearly Sarah Johnson with Jenny Camugli only 3.1 seconds up the road fancies herself with a shot at getting at that Nissan, and of course jumping her up the order won't affect her championship. Her next nearest rival in the championship, or next position to get in the championship, would be Yvonne Vandenberg, of course, because they are in pro category, but still you want the best result possible, of course. And that was a pretty textbook pass in the T1, and once you get the inside line and turn 1, it's very hard for the person on the outside to defend that and try and make a counter attack. We see, of course, some of the other flip-flop chicanes around various tracks that you can hang on the outside, fight it a little bit and keep your position, especially Misano. I think turn 1 and turn 2 is a great example of that, but Monza T1 don't really have much of a chance.
No, it's not really a circuit that offers up cutbacks that often, really. It can go very right if you're the car attacking, but it's not always the easiest of circuits to defend at. Now look at this at the moment. Mia Rose, 7 seconds out in front for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. Doing another great job in that Mercedes. Of course, this is the Evo iteration of the Mercedes AMG GT3. It's a big unit of a car. Sounds like one as well, and goes like an absolute unit through Lesmo 2. And then down towards Ascari. And Ascari's one of those corners, isn't it? You set yourself up for so long all the way down here. You get it flat, and then you go to turn in. And sometimes, for whatever reason, the car just doesn't want to turn in. It's such a scary corner because the momentum goes one way, then the other, and then the other again. It can be a bit of a nightmare, can't it?
Yeah, it's quite forceful, and you really do have to force the fit. And sometimes when you do try and force the fit, you can find the rear end spinning around you, especially in cars which are a little bit more nervous, like the Porsche. But yeah, big shout out actually to Sarah Johnson. We just seen her, of course, make that pass on Taplin, the other Bentley. But Michael Hamlis just informed us Sarah Johnson started 19th in this race and is already, in the space of less than half an hour, made her way up in the 7th and is closing down Jenny Kamugli, who in turn is actually closing down Yvonne Vandenberg. So a very, very impressive drive so far from Sarah Johnson.
Yeah, indeed. Very, very good stuff indeed. It's easy to overdo it around here, so just keeping your head is one of the main things, as we will continue to discuss. But these two Bentleys now. Oh, that looks sideways there from Charlie Martin. And manages to hold it, though. That looked like it was properly gone, that.
I thought that was gone. Yeah, that was a brilliant save.
Very, very good stuff. We've all seen those sorts of moments go wrong before.
The interesting thing with these two, with Taplin and Martin, is that they both received penalties. So this is just a clear-cut battle for position between these two. And unfortunately for them is that if they do get into a bit of battle and hold each other up, they're going to lose positions further down the order, because we've got May, Mur, Riot, the lab not too far away, and could capitalise on that 15-second time penalty. But that was a clinical move there from Charlie Martin, as we see Lamborghini in the wall, and looks as though it is parking it to retire, unfortunately, or is in some poor shape. Yeah, that might actually be a hardware issue, the way it's firing itself into the wall.
Yeah,
a bit of damage.
Yeah, it does seem. Oh no, maybe no. That's properly broken, that Lamborghini, by the look of it. Very visually, it's a very damaged car. Trying to just park it out of the way, I think, at the moment, is Alessandro Menini. But I think, if anything, it's time to take that back to the garage, unfortunately.
And then to the skip.
Yes, yeah. Very quickly down the road to El Tipolino, as it's probably called in Italy. But we've got Taplin then, 9th place at the moment. Verena May not too far behind in 10th. And the pit window is open now. We've got Gobi straight in there. Probably the co-driver saying, right, you've had enough send. In you come. Don't forget pit
interesting stand.
Yeah, exactly. Don't leave all of the excitement out from it. But at this point, they've got to obviously serve these penalties while they're in the pit lane. Here is what happened to Menini in the Lamborghini. Menini Lamborghini into Lesmo 2, a little bit deep, tap on the grass, and I feel, oh no, oh, Sarah just moves across in the Ferrari, and it's completely broken. Probably the front left on the Lamborghini, which is why it was veering down to the right.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, nothing that Lamborghini could have done. Was alright on the edge of the track, had nowhere to go. But very, very unfortunate for those, and I hope they've got it back to the pits. They may have teleported the pits there, so I think that is their race done with the damage that was in that car. But everyone's jumping into the pits now, except for the leaders. The front 5 really are the only ones not to jump into the pits. But yeah, Alu Gobi, Charlie Martin, Taplin, and a few others will be really hurt now by those 15-second penalties. If this is your first SimGrid SEC race, the time penalties that have been issued will be served in pit lane, so it is not post-race penalties. Yeah,
it just shakes it up during the actual race itself. Look at all the pit stops as well. All the cars in the list there with the white little marks to the side of their names and the letter P are the ones that are currently in the pit lane. And we've got the 101 car and the 18, of course, under investigation. And in comes Jenny Camugli. Just in front as well, Yvonne van den Berg in the pit lane. Here's Oscar Sandberg. Just coming out now in the Turn 1 MFR Bentley. Into the first, well, past the first chicane. Not quite sure if he's going to attribute that down to cold tyres or not, but that was a little bit exuberant into there. We've now got Taplin next on track. But by the look of it, is that the Lexus there is that the number 87 machine? It is, isn't it? It is, yeah. It is. Wow. Well, there you go then. So that's Aurelian Cross and the more freaky racing machine just behind now. So Oscar needs to crack on. And this is the thing about pit stops in a race. You know, it shakes it up so much. It's just so much fun to see, isn't it? You know, we never know what to expect, really, because especially with these penalties as well, everybody starts to get more spread out and the whole field just gets mixed up loads. It's great.
Yeah, that's it. And speaking of pit stops, Michael Alma's just pointed out, look at that gap from first to second, absolutely slashed. Mia Rose lost 4.5 seconds to Benzik in the pit lane. So that gap, all the hard work that Mia had done in the early stages of this race, getting clear early on from the very first lap, opening up a second lead before we even got into sector 2. With all the battling that the second, third and fourth cars were doing, and then finding herself opening up that gap further to about 8 seconds, has now been slashed all with a pit stop. So that was very, very unfortunate, although Honora Rose is on the ball straight away and is already starting to stretch that lead just that little bit. But yeah, not completely out of the woods yet for the 956.
No, indeed. It's certainly going to be difficult to get that right lap after lap. Because when you're trying to stay ahead, I mean, we've all seen it, haven't we? Just watching your mirrors and just trying not to drive it as if you are looking in your mirrors. You know what I mean? There's so many drivers that I've seen before where if you put them under pressure, you know, it barely affects them, and it's great because you've had so much practice in defending that it doesn't bother you. Some people just aren't bothered about it. Other drivers will watch their mirrors so much and they'll feel that pressure, won't they? And I think it's these parts of the races now where those gaps start to open and close again. Now we've got these new drivers in the cars. They're on fresh tyres. They're just going to crack on. And I think that this is the really pressurising bit of the race. This is where it now starts to really gain some momentum, isn't it?
Yeah, and you get those drivers who maybe it's a little bit of overthinking in terms of the car behind, especially. I mean, it's a different experience for me when you actually get to see in car racing with the rear view mirrors. You can see who's behind you at any given time, whereas the only time really you know someone's behind you in the bikes is either through a pit board, or if you can hear the bike behind you, sort of when the bikes are on the overrun, you can actually hear sometimes behind you or have a look around your shoulder. So yeah, it's a different experience to get used to when you see, especially something like a big BMW or a Bentley or an Aston Martin breathing down your neck. And yeah, it takes a while to get comfortable with that, but if you're I think it comes down to you being comfortable in your own setup and the pace that you have at that point, which determines how comfortable you are with being pressured from behind.
Yeah, we've seen drivers before really suffer under pressure, and then others just, I don't know how they can just soak it up, but we'll see now. This is go time. You can see there a very nicely placed Twitch plug there from the GTWR team on the back of that Lamborghini. There you go. You've got to love that. Now that is a team that studies the cameras that are used in ACC and goes, right, where's the perfect place to pop our Twitch? Straight there. Thank you very much. But we look back though. Sorry?
That's a professional outfit there.
It is indeed. We're looking back from Thibaut Props there, of course, third place at the moment. Fellow Lamborghini and GTWR car behind, Harteveld in number 14. Here's the next car on track. But a big gap back. There is said gap back to Chris. You can see just how much it's spread out now. Back out of the first chicane. Glorious sound. Now here is Aurelian Cross with the Bentley of Ross McGregor just behind, a teammate of mine at Zancho Simsport. And both of these drivers very quick indeed. You can see Ross just dipping out there, just showing his nose, just saying, look, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And to be fair, it's not like the Bentley doesn't fill these mirrors anyway, as down the inside goes Ross. Gets the better of Cross. And now Cross is going to try and go across the back of Ross, as he now changes back to the left-hand side again. Great to see the names on the doors there as well. Onto the brakes into the first chicane. They just leave each other enough room. Let's hope nobody gets cross about it. And Ross gets ahead of Cross.
Yeah, that was some great racing there. Give each other just enough space without being overly generous to each other. But unfortunately for both drivers is that if they keep battling this way, they've got Mr. Gregor Schill behind them, 4.2 seconds down the road. And now we will have, that is a Lamborghini, I presume, unlapping themselves because they're not in the order. There is the Ferrari just behind. That is the Lamborghini of, I can't quite get the number, but I presume it's one of the ones unlapping themselves. It might be Giorgio Simonini, actually, the 150 who's taken over from Tia, who obviously had their issues earlier on. And Giorgio, we all know the pace that Simonini has, so it would make sense that it's someone as rapid as him just slicing his way through the order and trying to do his best result and try and pick up as many points as he can, because there's still points on offer even for those lower positions.
That's it. And like I said before, it's a championship, it's not just a one-off event. You've got to go for the points. You want to be up there come the end of the season. You need to crack on at every single round. Do not let one single opportunity pass you by in something like this. Every single corner, you have to make it count. As we look back from Cross now at Gregor Schill in the wonderful black and purple Ferrari. A little bit of damage on the front end there, you can see. Look at that, the Ferrari. I mean, you said before, didn't you, Connor? That Ferrari's nifty in a straight line. And look at that, really is going for it down here into turn one, but can he get it done?
Cross looks as though she's outbraked herself just a little bit. Yeah, when you're jumping Gregor Schill that much on the brakes, it is on Ferrari, and gets it a little bit wrong over the softest cars. But yeah, when you're visually that much deeper on the brakes than a guy as talented as Gregor Schill into T1, there's a high certainty that you are going to be running wide, and Gregor read that, cut in tight, and was able to get the pass on. Now Ross McGregor is in sight. 3.4 seconds is the margin, but interestingly enough, Tivo Props has actually closed the gap from third to second to Pinches, and that gap is coming down. 21 minutes to go. It's not coming down enough for Tivo to be able to not only catch Pinches but actually make the pass done, get the pass done. So Tivo, he's going to have to step up his pace just a little bit, or hope the Pinches actually lowers his pace just a fraction.
Yeah, you just got to keep pushing and hoping, haven't you? And just see what can be done lap after lap. Like I said, make every single lap count. Go for it wherever you can. So it's 977 and 177, second and third at the moment, but still Rose at the very front of the field, flying as things stand. But that gap hasn't opened up too much. It's 5.3 seconds now. It's not quite back to what it was before, was it? It was certainly a lot more of an obvious gap before.
Yeah, and you start feeling that just a little bit. Of course, you'll be monitoring that on real time, and the pressure will just be starting to rise, just like a little slow cooker. And then when you start seeing that time, you start doing the calculations in your head, and you start going, "Oh, blimey, he might actually catch me here if I don't stay consistent." And then it's easy to try and jump your pace. It's easy to think, right, I need to go half second quicker, but you're already on your limit. So when you start to try and push the pace, you make mistakes naturally, whereas being more consistent would have helped and would have had a bigger struggle for the car behind to close the gap. You've just made mistakes and made it easier for props to make the gap. As Sandberg is in the sand. There you go. That's a pun from Colin, not from Chaz. But that is not great for them because they have to serve a drive-through as it is. So not the best then for Oscar Sandberg and the number 100 Bentley.
Yeah, it'll be frustrating. That's for sure. Fingers crossed they can get a little bit more consistency at the final 20 minutes of this race. We are now within said 20 minutes. And trust me, before you know it, that is going to go by. It really will fly. They always do. But this is Rangsater at the moment in the Turn 1 Pro-Am machine. It's a bit of an art car, that one, isn't it, really? Looks very interesting indeed. They've got the rainbow splitter on the back. The diffuser, I should say, which I'm a fan of. That looks brilliant. Nice use of it. Lexus behind with the bonnet just hanging up at the moment, unfortunately. Quite a lot of attrition in this race actually so far, isn't there, Connell? Quite a bit of damage here and there.
Yeah, it's sort of nature of the track, especially when you've got close racing, as we've seen, and now Rangsteer buried, and that is a deep gravel trap, isn't it? Really, I mean, as soon as we've seen Vandenberg earlier on getting caught in the gravel a little bit, and once she got caught, I mean, it wasn't even most of the car; it was only a wheel or two in the gravel trap. Just Alou Gobi was able to capitalise just so quickly, and we've seen there again from that car that just as soon as it got into the gravel, no chance, and completely spoiled the drive. Where sometimes you can find yourself going over grass or gravel and it not be too deep, and you can actually, as long as you keep it absolutely buried, the throttle, you'll not be too bad. But certainly the Monza gravel traps are deep.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it as well that it does slow people down so much, because there is a bit of inconsistency in certain sims as to what slows what down by how much when you have all of these different consistencies of gravel traps. Because I think that's what takes the fear factor away sometimes from some of the sim racing. You know, if you put it in a gravel trap in real life, then that's it. You know, your race is probably over. There's going to be a safety car. In sim racing, a lot of the time you get away with it. So some people are not as careful just to dip a wheel in there, but it's as easy as making an honest mistake and just overcooking it slightly. We've all seen it happen. And speaking of, Adrian Shuzdiara has just made a little bit of a hash of Lesmo 2 there. Maybe on the exit, maybe just dipping a wheel onto the grass. Apologies if I got the name wrong as well. But now, a name that we all know by now, Gregor Schill on board in the Ferrari number 335. Teammate of Verena May. Out the first chicane. Ross McGregor is the next car on track for position. That's the Bentley just up the road. It's just enticing to see if these gaps come down at all, but some of them seem quite stagnant at the moment, don't they? But others, they're a bit inconsistent. You'll gain a few tenths one lap, but then lose them the next.
Yeah, it's surprising. We're looking at gaps here and we see them tumble by quite a bit actually, and we think, right, this is it. This is the chase is on, really. And then you look at the next lap and it's sort of stabilised, or at least even gone up. But one gap that isn't going up is the gap from Ross McGregor to Gregor Schill, because he is taking chunks out of Ross's lead. And yeah, that Bentley is about to be hunted down. There's a bit of traffic in the way, and funny enough, that traffic is Giorgio Simonini. So actually, Simonini might drag Gregor up to the back of Ross McGregor, although it looks like Gregor's catching Simonini faster than Giorgio is catching Ross. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Gregor gets it done here. Of course, the blue flags are being waved. Not necessarily that Giorgio has to get out of the way. That's completely his call in GT3 racing. It is pretty much, as long as you're not overly defending or defending from the car behind, you're all good, which can be very frustrating if you're the car trying to make your way through, but there's nothing against the rules. So we'll see actually how this is dealt with, and it could actually be crucial, as we see. There we go, ever courteous, lets Gregor by, and now Gregor can focus his attack on Ross. Now Ross will be looking at his rearview mirror at that going, why did you do that? Please give me a break.
Yeah, he'll be cursing in ways that we won't say. But we know that it can be difficult and it can be frustrating, you know, when you see that one of your rivals has had a very easy ride of something. It gets frustrating. There is a mistake from the Mercedes earlier. Easily done. We've all done it. Time and time again. But again, it's just, as Connell said before, nature of this circuit. So easy to make a mistake around here, and it can ruin your race. You know, depends on what you hit and how hard you hit it, I suppose, doesn't it, mate?
Yeah, been there, done that. I've tasted a lot of gravel in my time, and there's some ones that you just know as soon as you can sort of tell, especially on a bike, that you can tell whenever you're tumbling through the gravel yourself. You can go, oh, this is a big one, and then you're picking yourself up if you can, and you just don't look at the bike. You just see you wait till the team picks it up, and you look at it about 10-15 minutes later when the salt isn't going to be applied directly to the wounds. But yeah, there's some ones actually that you think this isn't going to be too bad, and then it hits you for 6 when you go, wow, actually this is bad. And then there's others where you think, oh no, and you start saying your prayers and you get away with it quite lightly. And it's the same principle in sim racing, where you think that it's going to be a bad one, you manage to get it hooked up and saved, whether it be luck or your own skill or a bit of everything. And then there's others that turn in from a small mistake, turn into a huge accident, and you find yourself having to pit for repairs. So there's no, I think per corner, there's no way to crash. I think it's just get lucky with it, really.
Nice shot here on board with Gregor Schill in the Ferrari 488 GT3. 1.2 seconds off McGregor. So it's McGregor against Gregor at the moment. I was actually commentating on a race the other day with 5 Porsche 911 Cup cars all together, and they were numbers 9, 11, 999, 111 and 911. So you can imagine what the commentary was like.
It's a form of binary code, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was the number 9 911 is ahead of the number 11 911, with the 911 911 behind him and the 999, and then the 111 911 behind him. It was an absolute nightmare. But on this occasion, it's named rather than numbers. But someone that's definitely not just a number but a name is Jens Kaiser in the Map 1 Racing McLaren, currently leading the silver class as things stand, with a decent gap back to Bowler in 6th position, but 16 seconds ahead to Hartevelt. So it's a bit of a lonely race at the moment with 12 laps to go, but we both know how quickly that can change, don't we, Connell?
Yeah, wow. What a shot this is through the earth. That's an amazing shot. Mikey I, as always, bringing up the goods, playing with new camera angles, and that was a phenomenal shot. We have Ross McGregor just in front of us. We are on board, of course, with Gregor Schill. But yeah, very lonely drive now for Jens Kaiser. He inherited, to be fair, a good position, but again, a lonely position. But yeah, still leading the silver class by 1 position on track to Bowler in the Nissan. And that is job done again for that McLaren if they can get this done and get it across the line. But yeah, teammate Gobi was actually looked as though pace-wise, she looked as though she was on form a little bit to fight for the podium, but got a little bit excited, got involved in an incident or two, and that stifled her progress. But certainly pace-wise, it looked as though she had a shot. Now, I'm just looking actually at the gap from 3rd to 2nd, and that has come down, and that is 1.6 seconds now. So I said actually Tipo Prost might run out of laps, but with the way he's starting to slash it down now, Pinchas might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, potentially. There could be all manner of things change over the course of this race. Still not long to go, but we do keep saying we know what motorsport's like. We know how quickly it can go right and wrong. And I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of that here. So we can see the Bentley just in front then. Bit of lap traffic for him to deal with. It's never easy to get right when you're trying to overtake lap traffic. It's hard to know what they're going to do and how aggressively they're going to do it. Looks like the Aston not backing out yet. Oh, there you go. There's me being shut up. But look at how much Gregor Schill manages to catch up on the brakes there. That was a really, really big gain. Be intrigued to see how that continues into the De La Roggia chicane, but it looks like we're not going to get much chance to watch it because it looks like he's just going to go for it straight away here. He's on the outside. If he's late enough on the brakes, that'll give him the inside for the second part of the chicane, but the overlap is gone. Ross McGregor manages to hold on. But for how long? That's the question. He's got one of the GTWR Lamborghinis just behind, but that's not for position. I believe that's Simonini.
It is, yes.
150 machine.
They're having a nosy, having a look at this battle, going, well, I would like to get through. Don't necessarily want to interfere, but I mean, if he's going to make a mock-up of it, I'll take a position here. But Ross McGregor defended that absolutely beautifully there. That was just about textbook how you defend in that corner. He didn't sacrifice his own run. He defended, obviously, the line to not get past. And he got the job done, and he was able to punch out of the corner. So great job from Ross.
Ross is one of those consistent drivers that you've just got to chip away at. If you're going to be trying to overtake him, you just need to keep knocking on the door a little bit. You know, it's never first time round with Ross. He was a teammate of mine in a touring car championship and I could get nowhere near him. And then when people try and overtake him, he just always seems to be very, very consistent indeed. But now, with the slipstream against him, that Bentley, as you can imagine, punches a big old hole in the air. It's like having a small moon go down the straight. Here at Monza, a bit of contact door to door with Gregor Schill. Feisty stuff from the pair of them, both on the brakes into turn one. More contact. Gregor's not letting him have any of this. And look at that behind as well. Simonini's thinking, oh, great, a fight, let's get involved. Maybe not the time for Simonini to get involved here, because he's still be like, just go away, leave us to it, let us crack on. But the Bentley now, he's going to be put offline here by Simonini, and he really doesn't want Giorgio to be in this. And look at that, he's boxing him in to have Simonini go through because he knows that he's quicker than him at the moment. Is the contact nearly? Oh, there is a tap. Great stuff from Mike Yao again. Thanks very much, mate. Look at that, though. Gregor Schill, it was aggressive, but he made it work. But now Simonini's holding him up, so he's sort of getting just desserts here for letting him through. It's so feisty between these three, but only two of them are for position. Bentley nearly goes into the back of the Ferrari. Lamborghini runs a little bit wide on the exit. This is epic stuff, isn't it, Connell?
Yeah, that was fantastic. It's a shame Simonini wasn't making a pass for position there, because the way he passed the two of them was absolutely brilliant. And now Gregor is in the slipstream of Giorgio. There was at one point there we were on board with Gregor Schill, and I was wondering where Giorgio had gone, but he wasn't going anywhere. He was just stuck in behind the Bentley. The Lamborghini is so small compared to that big old boat, couldn't actually see. But here's the battle, and he's been caught well and truly now.
He is indeed. There's not going to be much in it come the next apex, never mind the next lap. So Pinches will be watching back now. Thibaut Props, I mean, we've seen him in a couple of series now on the sim grid, and he's very, very quick indeed. He's making that Lamborghini work around here. Is he going to suddenly cut over to the right-hand side? Yep, there you go. And he's got the overspeed as well into Parabolica. Look how wide the front of that Ferrari looks when it's all painted white, especially the splitter as well. Certainly does look good, but down the inside he goes and through. Now, Pinches has got the slipstream, yes, but he's not got that much of a run up to the back of that Lamborghini. You'll see him probably, he's letting off, look. He's not pursuing it and trying to make the move back yet in a straight line. He'll probably just follow him for a little bit just to see whether he can match the pace, because at this point you have to be careful not to push too hard, because if you have any sort of contact here or any sort of mistake that puts you further down the order, you've not got any time to make it up again, have you?
No, not at all. This is the crucial part of the race. 5 minutes to go, of course. But it looked like Pinches has really dropped like a stone. His last few laps have been high 49s. So I don't quite know what the issue is. Maybe tires are melted or going into some sort of fuel conservation mode or something. Or he picked up a little bit of damage, but yeah, certainly not what we expect from Pinches to be dropping like a stone like that. And Thibaut Props doesn't care one bit. Now it's Josie Austin, who is one half of actually the reigning champions of this series. Josie is driving the 316 now, not with the same teammate, didn't come back to defend the title, decided to help out another driver, a less experienced driver. So Josie not having the best time of it, just seeing her running wide obviously into the first chicane. Now here's the biggest climbers of the race so far, and I have to say, drive of the day so far from this Pineapple team. I mean, coming from 19th on the grid, now sitting in 6th. They've got the job done on Bowler, and now they're starting to eke a gap, and that is really impressive, because it can be a track, obviously, that you can get involved in a battle in, but it seems like sometimes once you get stuck in a group, you're there for the rest of the race. So to make that climb from 19th to 6th is very, very impressive.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a series that's easy to gain positions in, really, because there's so many different talents in the field. And then, of course, when you've got the different drivers as well, the co-drivers coming in, it's never easy to match what they're doing. So I'm very impressed with how it's been going so far. We've just got to keep our eyes on this battle, because as much as Ross McGregor will be thinking, it's all right, Gregor was quicker than me anyway, you'll be getting annoyed at Simonini here. This is now Josie Austin has overtaken Shushiara and is getting away as well. Nice big beefy Asus logo on the back of the Aston Martin. Great looking machine, as we continue to say. Just over 3.5 minutes left to go then in this race, in the More Female Racers series by Thrustmaster here on the sim grid. And we've had plenty of action once again. A little bit more argy-bargy than we used to, but it just adds to the entertainment. As now, of course, we have McGregor ahead of Simonini on track, but does he have the ability now to go after Gregor Schill? Schill has been the quickest on track consistently now. Across the line once again to start another lap, but at the front, it's still Honore Rose absolutely flying out there in the Mercedes. The gap hasn't gone up that much again though, but I mean, it's Thibaut Props. We've just seen how quick he is, haven't we? He's just absolutely on it.
Yeah, and we've seen obviously the racecraft of Honore Rose. She won't be too bothered now that the gap is 4.7. Just be managing that gap a little bit. You don't need to win the race by 40 seconds. Of course, it would be nice if you could, but the famous man Mike Aylwood once said, "When it's the slowest speed possible." And yeah, Honore Rose is just conserving that lead just a little bit, as we see in the background. Ross and Giorgio getting a little bit feisty with each other. Ross McGregor getting that passed on. Now Giorgio is 15 seconds back on the nearest car, which is Seb Handler, with 2 minutes to go. That is not going to be feasible. But Vicky Thompson in 17th, just behind Giorgio. So a lot of talented drivers throughout this field, and it's great to see, isn't it, Chaz? I mean, we've got, look at the names that we have here. We see a lot of these names involved in the first splits of the Endurance Cup, the Sprint Cup, etc., and to help out some of the less experienced drivers to get that knowledge, to get that feedback, and more importantly, to get their telemetry, which I'd love to get my hands on. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's very true indeed, mate. You know, you want to have all of the data you can get, because it's what helps you improve at the end of the day. You know, it's what us racing drivers, sim racers, we all love it. You know, data is king at the minute, no matter what it's in. But in sim racing especially, it is one of the main ways that you can see any potential improvement. You can see Taya there just watching along in hope that the team can grab a good result out of this. But this has been so tough. I mean, the level of competition just from last season to this season has just stepped up so much, hasn't it? It's been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the entry list at the start of this season, when you seen, you know, like the John Lacey Esport team, multiple GTWR teams, you knew that there was going to be a lot of strong outfits. And I feel bad actually for this 150 car. Had a chance, had a crack, definitely at the podium here. because Tia was having a great drive up into fourth position, getting pressured a little bit, obviously, by the McLaren, but was in a great position. And when you hand off to Giorgio Simonini, he can do wonders. You can see the pace that he is showing here, even when he's down in 16th place. So, yeah, obviously that incident really put paid to their chances, but a bit of confidence going forward into the next few races, of course. I mean, they're not completely out of the woods for a couple of good results going forward into the season. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this 150 goes. Of course, we've got Silverstone and Imola still to go. Lamborghini, not the best at Imola, but as we've seen in the Endurance Cup a couple of weeks ago, Charles, just before Christmas, at Imola, Lamborghini wasn't favoured, but those GTWR folks still stuck it second in the race and had a great drive, especially this guy Giorgio Simonini dealing with a lot of pressure throughout that race. So they'll be looking forward to it. And now we've got a penalty for Chris Hartwell in fourth position. That could be crucial to his race.
Yeah, indeed. He won't be a massive fan of that, I'm sure. Look at this now. Simonini pushing the Bentley down the straight just then. And now having a bit of a fight, just making the race a little bit fun for each other, aren't they? It's the little sleek, angular Lamborghini against the big, rotund Bentley. We've got a car potentially out of fuel. Yeah, Hartveld's out of fuel here. We've had, Michael just mentioned a moment ago that cars were struggling with fuel, but it is the John Lacey Sports Academy Mercedes that's taken the win. Thibaut Probst taken second. Pinches gets third place. But look, there it is. Chris Hartwell is out of fuel in the GTWR Lamborghini. He will not be pleased with that one. And now Turkey is surely going to come through and take sixth place in the Boatley. And Michael's just saying to us now he's not sure what the stop-go penalty's for either. But there is the number 21 McLaren winning in the silver class. Great drive from them. Very entertaining early. And oh, there's actually been contact with Harteveld. And who's that that's gone into him? Is that the Lexus? Is that the number 11 Lexus? I believe it is, isn't it? Of Lee, further down the order. That's a real shame. Wasn't expecting to see that. Maybe the Lamborghini was not what they were expecting to see as they went round Ascari. But here is Ross McGregor in the NSN MFR Bentley trying to fill up the mirrors of Giorgio Simonini's Lamborghini one more time as they go across the line. But what a lively, lively race indeed, Connell. Once again, the More Female Racers series showing us that expecting the unexpected just isn't enough, is it?
Yeah, stunned. Really gutted for Hartwell and the team. Of course, finished fourth in the first race and then eighth in Zandvoort there. So they were going to match their best result of the season in fourth place, run out of fuel. And we don't know what the stop-go 30-second penalty for. It might be for exceeding stint timer, possibly, something to that effect. We'll have to take a look at it. But either way, the stop-go 30-second penalty is irrelevant because they are DNFing as a result of running out of fuel. And they might have got a chance of coasting their way to the line. Of course, we've seen it Zolder actually. Needs fan. Oh, that is a big hit there on the exit. That is nasty. And there's no way that they were going to get going again there with their lack of fuel. They were probably hoping for a little bit of a bump as Niels van der Kokelt did to the team there at Zolder on the run to the line. But no such luck, and find themselves getting a bit too much of a bump than they were really anticipating.
Yeah, that was not the nicest of moments to have. A bit scary how quickly a race can go one way then the other though, isn't it? But again, it's motorsport. It's what happens. It's just part of it, unfortunately. And I, for one, I love the drama of it. Being a commentator, it's what we live for, isn't it? It's what we aim to have. But I know from a driver's perspective as well how frustrating it is when you have something like that happen, especially so close to the end of a race as well. Not only running out of fuel, but as you said, rubbing salt in the wound there with that contact at the very end. Real nightmare.
Yeah, it's not pleasant at all. I mean, you go through, especially on the last lap, you go through all that hard work, all the preparation. I think there's nothing worse than either being taken out or being involved in an incident in the first or the last lap. At least in the first lap, you can possibly rejoin and get a bit of a recovery drive, but the last lap can be an absolute stinker. I've had both, and I think the final lap DNF is probably the cruelest.
Yeah, indeed. You've done all the work to get all the way through, and then, yeah, goes down the pan at the very end. It's not a nice way to have your race be wrapped up. But what we're going to do in just a sec is grab a couple of interviews with some of our drivers and see what they thought of said race. By the look of it, we do have Saradov and Thibaut Probst just waiting in there for a quick chat as well. Mia Rose and Ross McGregor also jumping in. Why don't we have a quick word with Saradov and Thibaut Probst, because Thibaut was on an absolute mission towards the end of that race there, and it'd be good to get his thoughts on whether he could have got the job done in the last couple of minutes, if there would have been more, obviously, because that's one thing that you get, isn't it, Connell, sometimes, is that if you get these drivers where you'll speak to them and they'll go, if there's one more lap, I would have had him. And I think that may have not quite been the case here, but maybe a few more laps and there could have been a change. What do you reckon?
Yeah, you get that a lot, especially. We've all done it. We've been involved in sim races. For anyone who has raced for anything longer than a few weeks, you'll have got that thought in your head where you've got, God, I wish I had a lap or two. And of course, it's sort of balanced out because there's many races I've been a part of. I know many other drivers have been going, I'm glad this race ended when it did, or else I would have been losing positions there. So swings and roundabouts, isn't it? But of course, we are all racers, so we're all going to feel like we've been done unjustly.
Yeah, that's it. That is it indeed. Well, we have drivers queuing up in the interview waiting room to have a quick chat with us. So in just a second we will have a quick word and see what they made of that one, because a little bit more attrition than what we're used to in that one, but still plenty of fun all the same. You can see here the wonderful highlights on screen. Thanks again to Mike Yao for his brilliant broadcasts. Certainly been a fantastic addition to have him along. And here we go then. We're going to have our first interview will be with Saradov and Thibaut Probst from the number 177 GTWR Lamborghini. 3 of them in the race to focus on as well. So to be the top one of those 3, it's a bit of bragging rights, isn't it, Connell, when you beat your teammates like that?
Yeah, who's the first person you want to beat? Your teammate. It's always the way. You're thinking your teammates can look as friendly with each other, especially when you get up to the professional ranks and you're doing PR and all those events with with the teammates, and everything's all nice and rosy. But until you get into that track, yeah, you throw everything out the window and you probably race them harder than you would anyone else. But that's just the way it is, and that's the joy of this game.
It is indeed. And joining us now in the box is Saradov and Thibaut Probst. Now, Sarah, just starting with you, it seemed a little bit chaotic early on in that race, but most of the cars at the front seemed to avoid the worst of it. How did you find that first opening few laps?
Not ideal. The Alu in the McLaren kind of tried to muscle her way through, and that kind of broke us off from Mia. So by the time we got around the first half of the lap, we were 2 seconds behind or something like that. So the slipstream was gone and they were out of there. And then I managed to get past and was just sitting behind Mia. And then for the whole time, I'd gain 2 tenths, and then the next lap she would gain 2 tenths on me, and then I'd gain 2 tenths again, and then she'd gained 2 tenths again. So it ended up, we basically finished the stint the same time behind as it started, really.
Well, when you've got like a pace deadlock as such with the eventual race winners like that, it must install some sort of confidence for upcoming rounds, though, that you know you can match them like that.
Yeah, I think Mia and Eleanor were just kind of a bit too fast with the Mercedes at Monza in really big straight lines. But hopefully I can be a bit closer. I'm not like frustrated like I was at Zandvoort where nothing went well. So I'm happy with how it went.
That's good stuff. And Thibaut, coming to you, mate. We saw obviously some mega pace towards the end of that race. I was sort of jesting before that you might have been saying a few more laps I might have had them. Do you feel like that's the way?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they had a pretty good pace as well. Yeah, maybe with 15 minutes and no stupid mistakes from myself, it could have worked. But yeah, maybe it would have been possible. I was pushing as much as I could, maybe sometimes too much because I was doing mistakes and losing 2-3 tenths a lap sometimes. Had quite a good laps, but yeah, I'm pretty happy overall of the stint I did, and very happy of the stint of Sarah as well.
Do you think with the amount of long straights and few corners that there are at Monza that it's one of the most notorious tracks for over pushing the car?
Yeah, it is. Actually, we had discussions with the Ferrari that finished P3, and yeah, I was quite surprised because I think at the end they were struggling with the fuel, and I think it's because of those long straights. So, you know, yeah, they're gonna probably talk to you a bit more about that,
and let us know the sitch of why it ran out of fuel. Too much right pedal, but. Yeah. No, it looked like a fun race though from your part. I mean, that final stint was an interesting one, and obviously when you got second place, did you then think, right, let's go and get first, or was it a case of, well, we've got second, that'll do?
Yeah, I took a lot of pleasure, and it was really nice to push like that, and yeah, I was like really like looking for first place. I knew it would be difficult because of traffic as well. We were quite unfortunate 1 or 2 times. We've lost maybe 1 or 2 seconds because of traffic, but you know, that's race. That can happen. But yeah, of course, we were looking for the first place, and we are hoping maybe we could catch up.
Well, it looked like you had a good chase in you anyway. Going into future rounds, do you think that you could potentially grab a win?
Yeah, that's what we were talking just after the finish line. We were like saying that we hope maybe on the next round, on the last one, we could take a win. I think that would be much deserved, I would say, from what we've done so far. And yeah, I think it's possible, hopefully, and we work for that.
And what about you, Sarah? Do you think that you could potentially get a win together as well before the season's end?
I hope so. I'll have to just wring the neck out of it in the at some point, just to go mega to try and do it.
And what's your confidence like around Silverstone? Is it a circuit you enjoy?
Yeah, I've had some good races at Silverstone, and I haven't driven it on. Well, I haven't done any races on ACC, but in iRacing, it's been a fairly good track for me.
That's like a swear word here, isn't it, iRacing?
It is.
But it's good to see you guys get that result, though. Very well done from us here at the Sim Grid, and of course in the commentary box as well. Starting with you, Sarah, do you want to give anybody a thank you before you go?
Just say thanks to Tybold and GTWR for helping me out, and it's not a win, but second is great, and I'd say that's a fairly good birthday present because it's my birthday today.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And very well done from all of us here. Thibaut, any final words from you, mate?
Yeah, same thing. Thank you to the Sim Grid for the organization as usual, Mega, and for the broadcast and everything. And yeah, thank you to GTWR, all the people involved and our partnership as well. And yeah, thank you very much, and very looking forward to the next round next week in Silverstone.
Smashing stuff. Well, great to speak to you both. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time round.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers.
See you.
Awesome stuff there from our eventual podium position finishes. And next up, we're going to bring in a good teammate of mine, Ross McGregor, and I believe is Taplin in there as well.
Not yet.
I can't see her in there, but Ross, that was... Oh, is she? Oh, there we go. Yes,
Hey.
sorry. It was the username, it put me off. I just wanted to say, well done, Ross, for that fight near the end as well, and obviously for you as well, partway through that race, Melissa. It was certainly hard work, wasn't it, in the big old Bentley?
Yeah, it's good. It's good fun throwing it around the track, plus with all the full tank of fuel as well. It feels quite different, so I'm still learning a lot.
Well, you certainly put the learning into practice there. Ross, I don't know if I ought to mention Giorgio Simonini's name to you at this point, but I wasn't sure whether you'd be enjoying the little battle that you were having there, or whether you'd just be getting fed up of him being a lap down and having a scrap with you. What was your outlook on that?
Yeah, it's kind of more in the latter, Jazz, I have to say. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he thought he was a lap further up the field than what he thought he was, but yeah, that's... what can you say?
Yeah, I can imagine it was slightly frustrating. Melissa, how do you feel that the season's gone so far? Because, I mean, we all know that the Bentley isn't the best choice in terms of all-round performance, but it seems like it goes well at these tracks with the right hands on the wheel.
It seems to be going well so far. To be honest, I literally started sim racing a couple of weeks before the championship started, so I haven't really tried all the cars yet. I've had a go in a couple of the Aston Martin. But the Bentley seems okay so far. I'm kind of just playing it safe generally. And yeah, hoping to finish each race. Last race was not very good, so I'm pleased with today's result. It's been really good.
Well, that's it, playing it safe in a series like this as well, with, as I keep mentioning, so few rounds. If you get it wrong in one of them, you're constantly on the back foot then. But it's good to see that playing it safe is working, because at the end of the day, you're bagging championship points, and that's the important bit. How do you feel about Silverstone next week?
Yeah, I'm going to start practicing this evening, I think. I've got lots to learn for that one, so I'm a bit nervous, but hopefully it'll be good. I'm enjoying it now, so that's good.
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? As long as you're enjoying yourself, it's fantastic stuff. Ross, are you confident about Silverstone? Is it a circuit that you enjoy?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine for me. I don't think I'll be taking over for the next round. I think Denise will be back in the car. She just had some internet problems, so I was like a last minute super sub. Well, sub.
I was going to say.
So, yeah, I probably won't be back, but I've got to say, a week in between races for Mel not to actually have done any sim racing before this championship started. Try to learn a new track in the space of a week is super difficult. So, yep, good luck, Mel.
Be fun,
Rob,
thank
you
you.
well.
Smashing. Well, very well done, like I say. Starting with you, Mel, anybody you want to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Rob.
Well, yeah, Rob's been a good sport and training me, but also Denise as well. Shame she couldn't be here tonight, but she's done very, very well in coaching me so far.
Nicely said. Any last words from you, Ross, as well? It sounds like I'm assassinating you. Any last words?
Did I get a last meal as well?
It'd be haggis.
No, just well done to Mel. She was really steady. She didn't make any mistakes apart from that small incident, but let's gloss over that. But apart from that, she did really well. She kept it consistent. She stayed ahead of some properly quick guys and girls. Yeah, so hopefully it continues for the rest of the season.
Smashing stuff. Well, great to speak to you both. Very well done today, and we'll see you at least, Mel, at Silverstone.
Thank you very much.
Thank
See
you.
you next week.
Cheers. Great, always great to speak to him. And of course, our final interview of the evening is Marion Edwards joining us in the box. Marion, of course, driving the number 587 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Team Edison Genius Racing Bulbs. Marion, the simple question, how did you find that?
It was fun. It was interesting. It was an experience. Let's go with that.
There's certainly a lot of, I'm going to call it excitement early on, with cars a little bit all over the place. Plenty of aggressive moves, defending here and there. How was the first couple of laps for you? Did you manage to get through it all right?
No, I fell foul of a little bit of carnage in the first four, T1, T2, and then the Della Raja. So got a little damage there. Got hit a couple laps later, and that really caused the bulk of the damage, and drove a good chunk of my stint with the front hood bouncing up and down. So that was, I'm sure, a great visual to anyone who drove by. But yeah, it was just then about getting focused, getting my head down, and doing what I could with the car to put it in the position that I could for Vicky when we did the driver swap.
And the Mercedes, I mean, it's usually very good in a straight line. Did you feel like you could have potentially made the most of that advantage around here this evening without that incident?
Oh, for sure. I think that we had a really good setup that we felt really comfortable with. And I mean, that showed in Vicky's stint. You know, the times that she was putting up, she was able to keep pace and even run faster laps than some of the top 10 teams. So it was showing that we had the setup available. And had we not had that damage, I think we definitely could have done a lot more with the car today.
Well, on to Silverstone next time out. Is that a circuit that you're particularly confident about?
I'm looking forward to that track. It's also, no one knows if that will be the rainy race. So weather could be a fun factor. But no, Silverstone's a really fun track to drive. And I think it'll be great to take Mark out there and see what we can do this time.
Well, fingers crossed that it goes well for you. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye out, and we'll see how you get on. Is there anybody you want to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Oh, want to say massive thanks, obviously, to my teammate Vicky, who is smashing it as always again this season, and just everyone who's watching and cheering us on and supporting us in the chat or on social media or in Discord, and just helping to really bring to light this great group of women that really want to excel and grow the sport. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's been great to watch. Thank you again for joining us this evening, and we'll see you in a week's time at Silverstone.
See you then.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Marion Edwards there from the number 587 Mercedes Team Edison Genius Racing Bulbs, and like in the blink of an eye, once again, Connell, it's another racing evening under our belts. It just flies by so quickly. We have so much fun with this series, don't we?
Absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? We get through all the preparation and everything, and then all of a sudden it feels like all that preparation is just over and done with. We get into the race, here we go, and then all of a sudden the race is gone too. So it's it's a strange feeling, but it's time. They do say time flies when you're enjoying yourself, and we certainly do. Hope you at home do too. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. Don't forget as well, you can catch the rest of the series. You're at Silverstone in a week's time on the 18th of Jan, and then after that one, we head to Imola for what's bound to be a fantastic finale. And Friday night, 7 p.m, I, Chaz Draycott, will be interviewing Charlie Martin in a sort of subsection to the More Female Racers series. We'll be discussing all things sim racing, and of course, how women indeed get involved in motorsport and how to succeed as well. And hopefully, we will be seeing you there. Thanks as ever to Michael Hamlet for the information behind the scenes. Thank you to Thrustmaster and Coach Dave Academy, and of course, Mike Yao for his wonderful broadcast. And thanks as ever to my great commentary partner, Connell Courtney. That has been the More Female Racers series by Thrustmaster, round 3 from Monza. My name is Chaz Draycott. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. We'll see you in a week's time.